Good evening, and welcome to the 2019 Foxboro Jaycees Candidates Night. The Jaycees are proud to present this annual forum intended to provide you, the voters of Foxboro, an opportunity to meet the candidates running for local office and to hear their viewpoints on important issues which they would address as elected officials in our community. My name is Sophia Manos, and I'm a proud member of the Foxboro Jaycees, and I'm happy to once again be your moderator for this evening. We are live from the Foxboro Cable Access Studio, and I would like to thank Michael Weber, Lauren Bitar, Robert Gillis, Mark Rivard, Paul Beck, Patrick O'Brien, Alex Milan, Mike Mills, and all the hardworking people behind the scenes to deliver this broadcast to you. The 2019 Foxboro 10 election will take place on Monday, May 6th at the John J. Ahern Middle School. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. This election, there are 13 candidates to fill 13 positions, and math being what it is, all candidates are running unopposed. Each of these candidates were invited to participate this evening. I'm happy to say that we did get 5 of them with us here tonight. It's a solid 5. It's a good lineup. Thanks for coming. The Jaycees also invite candidates who decline to appear live a chance to submit up to 5-minute video statement or a written statement which we can read on the air. But alas, this year we had few takers to do so, but out of courtesy to you, the viewer, we will go over each of their names and their position some later in the broadcast. I would say even without a full slate, we have an informative hour ahead of you. Ahead for you. Of you, for you. It's all you. We have candidates running for school committee and 2 candidates for Board of Selectmen present tonight, as well as our existing town clerk. On behalf of the Foxboro Jaycees, I would like to commend all these individuals who have stepped forward and made the commitment to serve our community through an elected office. The Jaycees applaud you offering your talents and your time to serve Foxboro. Sorry about that. But let's go into the rules. My title is moderator, but this evening is not quite too much to moderate. But I will still probably interject myself just to keep the TD and the cameras on their toes. But let's go over what we can do, and the format is as follows. The candidates will each get to offer a statement of up to 3 minutes, if they can go that long, and they will be asked a couple questions from our representative from the press. For the Q&A segments, they'll have a couple minutes to answer the question, after which they may be asked a follow-up question. The candidates will then have 1 minute to answer the follow-up question, but just full disclosure, we have no timer here tonight, so we're going to trust you guys to temper your own responses. After the first question is asked, the other candidate will also have a chance to answer the same question. And we welcome the candidates to discuss their responses with each other if the situation arises, but nothing too combative. Don't throw chairs, nothing like that. No, you don't want to do that? After the question and answer period, each candidate can choose to make a closing remark. I didn't tell them they had to do that, so I kind of put them on the spot, and if they don't have to, if they can't think of one, so I apologize for that. And I have to get this out of the way. For the record, the Foxboro Jaycees as an organization cannot and will not endorse any particular candidate, nor can we espouse any particular political point of view. This is specifically prohibited in our chapter bylaws. Thus, I will not be asking the candidates any of my own questions this evening. I will leave that to our local Foxboro Patch reporter, Jimmy Bentley. Jimmy, thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you very much for having me.
And Jimmy this year did what I think is a really cool thing, and he asked the local residents and readers of the Patch to ask their own questions of what they would like to hear the candidates speak about this evening. So I think that we'll have our bases covered between Jimmy's questions and those of the town. And again, I just want to state that it would be impossible for us to run this event without the assistance of anyone from the press. So again, thank you, Jimmy, for appearing tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you all. I mean you all and him. All of them. All right, now let's get this rolling. We're going to start with the 2 candidates seeking to fill the 2 positions for members of the very important school committee. Each candidate can offer an opening statement, an introduction kind of to themselves, and then Jimmy will ask them each a couple of questions, perhaps some follow-ups, and then if either of them are inclined, you can give a closing statement or just whatever. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so The two gentlemen running for school committee this evening are both members, or ending their term as members of the advisory committee. And they decided just to keep on working for our town, which is in another capacity, and we thank them for doing so, and also thank them for being here to us here tonight. Please welcome Brent Reuter and Robert Canfield III, but he said we can call him Rob.
Please.
You don't like to be addressed formally as Robert Canfield III at all times?
Only by my children.
All right. So, thank you so much for being here, gentlemen. All right, Brent, we'll start with your opening statement. It can be up to 3 minutes, but like I said, we have no timer, so just pace yourself. It's the honor system.
Well, I endeavor to stick within it. First, I want to say thank you to you, Ms. Manos, and the Jaycees for holding this event, because I was curious whether or not the Jaycees and the town would follow through with its regular traditions around town elections because everyone's running unopposed. And I firmly believe that events like this are more about civic engagement than they are about the election. I think it's just good to hear the issues of the day and hear from would-be candidates for offices running various aspects of our town. So I'm just grateful that you all stepped up and did it, given that people are working on a volunteer basis. It's nice to see that our community institutions are robust and curious. In that vein, I'd say I can sum up maybe 3 reasons why I am interested in working with a school committee. First, I think I have experience and training to that effect. I've been an educator for over 25 years in various aspects, public education for about 14, nonprofit work, international education, both in administration and classroom teaching. I'm currently a science, technology, and wellness department chair and science teacher in Wareham, Massachusetts. I feel very lucky that I get to work there and also lend my voice and my efforts in the town that my kids go to school in here in Foxboro. Second, I'm curious. And I think people who are volunteers in any of our town boards should be curious about what's going on in the town. We should be innately interested in the budgets of the departments we oversee, in the policies that are coming forward, and we should never shirk from asking tough questions and follow-up questions. It's only by being interested that we all can learn from one another and make the town better. In this vein, I'm a lifelong learner. In addition to all the science training I've done, I was trained as a geologist. I chose for my graduate work to be in public policy just because I love this stuff. I love combing over town budgets. I love combing over policy. I'm a nerdy wonk in that way, and this I hope I can serve the town in this capacity further on school committee. Third and lastly, I think, at least I hope, I have sound priorities. One of the guiding principles I use when tough questions come up in my classroom or in my school or in organizations I've run is, are we doing what's best for kids? And I think if you use that as your barometer, it simplifies a lot of things and it helps you set your priorities. And doing what's best for kids doesn't mean, just as we would say as parents in our own homes, it doesn't mean that everyone deserves shiny new toys all the time. I mean, doing what's best for kids means modeling how to be a good citizen and making tough choices. And if we do that from top to bottom in our district, then I think we'll turn out some pretty robust citizens. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much. Rob, it's your turn.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Proceed with your opening statement.
Thank you. And I would like to echo Brent's sentiments, so thank you all for organizing this. I realize that some of the excitement and energy around the election this year may be a little bit less than it's been in previous years, but I do appreciate the opportunity to, share my views and perspective, as well as learn from the other candidates what they're hoping to accomplish as they move forward in their work with the town. So my wife Laura and I have been residents of Foxboro for about 24 years. We have raised 4 children, 3 who are not in the school system anymore, and 1 who is a freshman at the high school. So just my past is the longest I have lived any place by about 6-fold or 7-fold. So Foxboro, I guess, is now what I would consider my home, and it's been a really great place for us. As a member of the advisory committee for the past 3 years, it's been an educational experience. I feel like I have a much better understanding of how the town is organized. Certainly only tipping the iceberg after 3 years, but a much greater appreciation for the role that all the different departments and members of the different committees in town play in our town government, a much better appreciation for the role of the school committee in the town, what it does for the school systems, and how it works with the town, and how the schools work with the towns, a much better understanding of how the budget process works. And also, finally, and what really compelled me to step forward this year, a much better understanding of the challenges that our town faces and our schools face. It's it's a very wide population that we serve, and the mandate of a public education school system is to provide a quality education for the majority, as well as bring up whatever opportunities they can for the different special populations, so that children or anyone in the education system has an opportunity to get the best education that they can. And I, as a consumer of the school system in Foxboro, I have to say that I've been very impressed with the way that our town does that, the way they're able to manage a bunch of competing priorities from a financial perspective, or from a community interest perspective, or from a federally or state mandated perspective, and provide, a quality education from my experience across the board for the students that go through that system. So looking forward to contributing to that, as well as to understand even better, where we might have opportunities to increase opportunities.
Awesome. All right, thank you very much. All right, now it's the Q&A portion. So Jimmy of the Patch, please go ahead and ask your first question. And since Brent started the statements, we'll go ahead and ask Rob.
Okay, Rob. So the
Ping pong.
Massachusetts Foundation Budget Review Commission found in 2015 that the state is underfunding public schools by at least $1 billion. Do you know today if Foxboro is still being affected by some of that underfunding? And is there things that local school committees can do to try and work with state legislators to get more funding at the local level?
Thank you for the question. I do not know of any with absolute certainty that Foxboro will consider itself underfunded. I think that when you look at any public school system in the state, they're going to say, they go after, they take the monies that are available to them and try to spend them as wisely to serve the appropriate populations with those monies as much as they can. Like any other, again, public school system in the state, or any school system probably in the country, that is going to say we could always use more. But I don't know if you were to ask anybody right now, are they being underfunded by the state? I don't know the specific answer to that. I do know, there is some talk around the impact of, again, like special education programs and the requirements to provide services and facilities for students that need those kind of services. I know there's a lot of discussion around the impact of private schools and charter schools and how those impact funding in the town. And certainly those are things that I'd be interested to learn more about, to see what kind of opportunities we have.
Thank you.
Okay, any follow-up with that?
I guess the only thing I'd say is I used to cover Plimpton for the Plimpton Halifax Express, and they had a common issue with that too, is you mentioned with the special education budget, because a lot of the times with that can be a student moving in from another town mid-school year, and that's part of the budget that you weren't anticipating before. So how do you deal with that sort of challenge, that sort of planning, I'd say?
My understanding, again, based on the conversations that we've had over the past few years with Bill Yukna and Debbie Spinelli and now Amy Berdos, is they have a certain pot of money, if you would, set aside to be able to handle unexpected situations like that. That is a normal occurrence, and they can kind of, with some accuracy, predict the movement but they also have to leave some room, some margin in their budgets to accommodate, last minute transfers, last minute moves, either in or out of the system. And they seem to have done a really good job with that based on, what we've been told and what we've seen on the advisory committee and in the town.
Excellent. Thank you.
And Brent, do you have anything to add to regarding that question, or any answer to that question yourself?
Briefly, I mean, I agree with everything that Rob has said. I only know one source of information that I've seen regarding opinions on the amount of money, and this is advocates for the bill that's currently in front of the Mass legislature, the Better Schools Initiative. I'm probably getting the legislation wrong, but it's anywhere from 0.4 to 0.6 million, so 400,000 to 600,000 that Foxboro could stand to gain if that legislation passed, which I believe the crux of it, where most of the money is going, is in retooling, basically modernizing, which hasn't been done in over a decade, the funding formula for local districts. I know the district that I work in could stand to see 1.8 million of that, because there are some inequities across the state that need to be addressed by that, and Foxboro's slightly, it needs to be retooled a bit. If that legislation goes forward, after many conversations, as Rob has said, that we've both had with central administration, they would use the money quite wisely. There's a list of things that would go to.
Okay. Thank you. I have no follow-up.
Okay. Do you have another question?
I do.
We'll just start with Brent this time.
So, with every day, it seems in the news, we're seeing more articles about high school and middle schoolers getting addicted to Juuls, vaping, nicotine. I was just wondering how you as a school committee member would collaborate with the Board of Health to try and curb this issue.
And I would start, I believe the school committee's role is to raise issues, set priorities, and then see them done. The specific implementation of those priorities is, I believe, up to central admin, obviously with school committee oversight. The bit that I do know that I've seen from my own kids' experience in the schools is that collaboration is thankfully happening. And there can be more of it, because this year has seen an explosion in the amount of just rampant use of devices like the Juul and just vaping in general, and typical teenage attitudes of, well, it's not going to hurt me type of thing. And as with other challenges in past generations, education can inoculate kids to those things. And so to answer your question directly, I just want to ensure that the collaboration's going on, and that the Board of Health, local health professionals are speaking quite freely with central admin, school nurses, school administration, and educating teachers on how to best educate kids around the dangers of these things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Rob, if you do have anything to add to that response?
I do. I agree with Brent. I think that what we've seen is that our school administration does work very well with the appropriate resources, whether it is public health, whether it is public safety, in order to bring education and bring awareness. I think the problem or the challenges that we have in any situation like this, whether it is Juuls, whether it is alcohol, whether regardless of what drugs of whatever sort, I think the challenge is really, it is not school, it is not public health, it's a community that has to do that. I think we all have a responsibility. I have a responsibility as a parent. I have a responsibility, as a community member. So it takes all of those pieces working together, not just 2 out of the 4, 2 out of the 5, to try to move something forward. But to be really effective, we've got to embrace the challenges and the problems as a community and figure out what is best and how to make effective changes.
Great. Do you have any follow-up to that, Jimmy?
I do not. Thank you very much, Rob.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for the?
I have one more.
All right.
So
just throw it up there and see.
This one is from a resident that believes that charter schools have been a drain on dollars for the regular public school system. And he wanted to know if there are any actions that the school committee could take to curb the drain and make things a little bit more equitable, in his opinion.
Okay. Rob, you want to field that one first, or Brent? You guys
Sure.
toss up.
I'll go first.
Okay.
That's fine. So the charter school question is an interesting one. When you look at the impact that charter schools have on the community that they're based in, as well as the communities that they draw from, there are pros and cons. There are reasons why charter school education is a good opportunity for a student, and there are other situations where it is not the best opportunity. From a financial impact, I think we are in Foxboro relatively fortunate, based on how how the Foxboro student population breaks out into the Foxboro Regional Charter School, to use that specific example, in that it could have a much greater impact on us if we had a different ratio of students that attend that school. I don't think that the school itself is really pulling a lot of major funding. It's just the way the funding works is more of my understanding, and that in that it's an absolute dollar amount versus a relative dollar amount per student. I think that but that is not Foxboro specific. That is it state or national? I'm sorry, you can help me there.
State.
Yeah, jump in.
So statewide. So anybody in that situation is going to be under those same rules. But overall, I don't get a great sense that in our specific situation in Foxboro that our schools are losing a great amount of budget money because of the charter school.
Okay,
Brent,
thank
do
you.
you concur or have any differing opinion on that? Or-
I concur with Rob in that the situation in Foxboro pales in comparison to the funding inequities that are presented in other towns. There is an inequity. I believe it's the state legislature's role to fix that in terms of where the funding dollar goes. Rob characterizes it, in my view, accurately by saying it's posed as an absolute dollar amount, not taking into account the existing overhead for schools, both in terms of staffing, buildings, transportation, and the like, and the fact that in some instances, the breakdown of high-need students who go, more expensive students, let's say, students who need more services and deserve them, frankly. The percentage of those students going to charter schools versus public schools leaves a lot of public schools shorthanded on the funding end of the stick when you attach $1 amount per pupil and send that money to another school. To answer your question about what the school committee's role is in that, honestly, I think school committees can play a role, but they're not the ones to change the law. That has to happen at the state by state. And school committees can advocate to their state legislatures. And if that's something that the school committee and the school administration is interested in doing, I'd be on board for that.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, guys. Are we good?
Perfect.
Good. I'm just
Thank
going to
you
assume we're
both.
good. You seemed like it was a satisfied thank you. So I am also going to echo that. And it's that was really great. Thank you guys so much for being here. You're off the hook. You're free to go. We're going to take a short break. We'll now take a short break, right? And when we come back, we'll have Robert Cutler, who is running for town clerk. Thank you guys again so much.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Mics are dead.
second, right? All right, welcome back. We will be moving on to the town clerk race of one with Mr. Robert Cutler, our incumbent town clerk, who has served us these past 10-plus years in that role. You may recall a few years back, there was a question on the ballot as to whether he or anyone who holds the clerk position could be tenured until they chose to leave office. Well, Bob, I guess if you knew you could keep running unopposed, that wouldn't have been an issue for you at all. It's kind of the same thing. I'm just kidding. Of course, I'm just kidding. He has told us we can call him Bob, and that's what I'm going to do. So please welcome Bob Cutler.
Thank you. It's interesting you bring that story up because since this is an uncontested election, that tenure vote actually shows that every vote counted because it was a dead tie. So if it had been one more vote for me, then I wouldn't be here right now.
But
tonight.
we're happy to have you.
But thank you. And thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for accommodating my schedule tonight. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about the town clerk's office. And I want to thank all the volunteers here tonight. They do a tremendous job in every event. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight.
All right.
So I have a
You
prepared
begin your
statement.
Yeah, begin when you want.
When I was elected town clerk 11 years ago, I thought I had a reasonable understanding of the responsibilities of the town clerk position. I knew that the office was in good shape as Marie Crimmins was a great steward of this office and did a tremendous job of keeping up with the many demands of the office. Marie has been a good friend and resource for me. I was quick to learn that the responsibilities of the office were significantly greater than I could even imagine. I'm very proud of the work done by the town clerk's office. With the assistance of my assistant town clerk and administrative assistant, we've been able to build upon what Marie developed, and we always strive to improve the office with the ever-changing demands and the advancements in technology. The town clerk is responsible for over 300 federal, state, and local statutory obligations. The town clerk is a member of the Board of Registrars, the Chief Legislative Administrator, the Chief Election Official, Census and Voter Registration Administrator, Primary Records Custodian, Chief Public Information Administrator, and the custodian of the town seal. In addition, I act as the burial agent, census liaison, ethics liaison, public records access officer, notary public, and justice of the peace. Along with the day-to-day responsibilities of performing the annual census, dog licensing, voter registration, and providing vital records, the town clerk needs to have knowledge over many areas. We need to be proficient with planning and zoning regulations, conflict of interest laws, open meeting regulations, parliamentary procedures, underground storage of flammable liquids, document retention schedules, campaign finance laws, and much more. On a daily basis, the town clerk can be working with local department heads and public officials, state representatives, state agencies, or representative from the governor's office. Needless to say, the town clerk has his hands in many different areas and is required to be well-versed in just about everything that happens in municipal government. Since I became the town clerk, the office has seen tremendous changes, both in what we are responsible for managing and the way we do things. There have been numerous reforms in the election laws, including the introduction of early voting, which you were supposed to ask me about,
Sorry.
automatic voter registration and pre-registration. The processing of vital records has changed dramatically. The public's interest in transparency in government and its desire to have instant access to just about everything has given rise to significant changes to the public records law and the availability of public records and information. I've worked hard with my assistants to try to keep pace with the constant improvements to technology and the increasing public demand for instant access. On the election front, we have taken advantage of poll pads to handle the demands of early voting, which has been widely popular with voters and made voting more convenient. We have employed database technology to make dog licensing, public records requests, business certificates, and document management more efficient. Obtaining vital records is more streamlined due to the changes in technology. To be sure, having a law degree and working in the legal field has been beneficial to my work in the town clerk's office. However, none of that really matters if you don't continue to grow and learn. The Massachusetts Town Clerks Association is a great organization that provides continuous learning opportunities for its members. I've taken advantage of those opportunities and have earned designations from the state and international associations. One of the most important duties of the town clerk is to run elections for the town. There is a great deal of preparation necessary to prepare for all elections. With no contested races on this year's town ballot, the preparation and cost of the election remains the same. We have to prepare as though 10,000 voters will show up and vote. Jack Gothlet submitted a tremendous commentary in the April 4th edition of the Foxboro Reporter about why everyone should still come out and vote. I suggest that this is a must-reading for the voters of Foxboro. In that editorial, Jack reminds us of the tremendous sacrifice made by veterans who put their lives on the line to preserve our basic rights as American citizens. One of our most fundamental rights we have is the right to vote. Jack gave a perspective that I hadn't really considered before I read the article. There are many long-standing public officials returning on the annual town election ballot, most of them volunteers. From Jack's view, after the number of years in which they have served us so faithfully, their re-election should be like a standing ovation as we flood the polls in numbers that reflect the highest percentage of voters in past decades. As Jack noted, we owe our veterans and our dedicated public servants that appreciation by exercising our right to vote. I am challenging our voters in Foxboro to do just that and come out and vote on May 6th. I've been very blessed to be your town clerk. It is a job that I love and I take very seriously. Of the many responsibilities of the town clerk's office, the one I am most proud of is the service that we provide to the residents of Foxboro. Our first priority is to provide superior customer service to you. Often we meet with a resident who is just looking for some guidance or help getting a problem solved. One of our most rewarding experiences is being able to provide the resident with answers or a way to address their problem. That's the state of the town clerk's office as it is today. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. As you mentioned, I was supposed to ask you about early voting. I was getting to it. I was letting you do your statement. But I will go ahead and ask. The local elections right now, we know that we've implemented recently early voting, and we also offer absentee ballots. But can you explain what the situation is for this local election, please?
Yeah, so for local elections, early voting is not an option at this time. So the only option, if you're not able to make it to the polls on May 6th, is to come in and do an absentee ballot. Absentee balloting is available until Friday, May 3rd at noontime during normal working hours for the town clerk's office. And it's really, you need to not be able to be there for a legitimate reason the day of the election.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much. And I'll go ahead and I think I have a lot of things I'd like to ask because I'm interested in, as you know, in voting.
Sure.
But I'll go ahead and let the more qualified reporter do.
Thank you.
Please go ahead, Jimmy.
All right, Bob. So as automatic voter registration becomes a larger part of the national, state, and municipal discussions, do you have any thoughts on the idea? Do you think voter registration should be automatic when someone turns 18? I'm just interested in your opinion on that.
So in many ways, that isn't exactly how it works now, but it's very close. When they opened up voter registration through the Registry of Motor Vehicles and through online with the Secretary of State's office, you can almost do it any time during the day, on your phone, on your computer. So there's really no reason for someone not to register to vote. And the nice thing about the automatic registration bill is that it's going to allow us to access records for other states across the country. And so we will have a better sense of people who have moved out of town. I think it will work. It's going to come into place in 2020. And we will also be relying on an improvement in the state voter registration system that we use, so that'll be a big improvement for us. So I think it'll work fine.
Excellent. Thank you. And then I guess my other question related to elections would be, I'm not too familiar with what voter turnout's been like the last couple of years, but based on some of the other towns that I've covered, like Dedham, Stoughton, some of the percents have been like 25% or lower. Is there a way? Is Foxboro in that? And is there a way that the town clerk or election officials can maybe help foster more voter engagement beforehand?
Well, the Foxborough is not untypical of most towns. So for the big elections, the presidential elections, we've had really good voter turnout, 80 to 85%. For the more local elections, we're typically around 20 to 25%. With an uncontested race, I don't know exactly what kind of number to expect. I really hope that everybody comes out and votes, because we have to prepare the same either way. And I really enjoy it when it's busy and people are out voting. We encourage people to vote in every opportunity we can through the press. We're using Facebook and other ways through our administrative assistant at Town Hall, Amanda Smith. She's posting for us on a weekly basis. So other than, going to people's houses and bringing them to the polls, I'm not sure exactly how we can increase it. It's got to be up to the individual themselves to really want to be there. But we do encourage at every opportunity.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bob.
You're welcome.
You're good? No follow-up there?
That's all I have.
You could ever think of, everyone gets a free ham. I don't know. That would be terrible. That would be a terrible promotion. I don't know why I said ham.
We give I voted stickers, so.
I love the I voted stickers.
Yeah.
So many people do appreciate them. But yeah, free ham was a bad idea. Anywho, I am not allowed to ask questions, so, but I'll just say thank you for continuing to choose to serve here in Foxborough and doing what you do. That was a great statement, and I think I hope everyone else learned a lot more about all the things you do for the town. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for asking questions, Jimmy, and I guess that's it for you tonight. You're free to go as well. I love saying that. You're free to go. You're a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
You're dismissed.
Just don't say you're fired.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have the candidates for Board of Selectmen. And we're back. Before we continue, I wanted to take this opportunity to mention the other candidates in uncontested races on the May 6th ballot who are not here with us this evening. Now, if I mispronounce any of their names, I apologize. I kind of read them as I see them. The following positions are for a term of 3 years, and they are Robert L. Donnell. I'm sorry, right off the bat. O'Donnell, that was a tough one. Robert L. O'Donnell is running for Board of Assessors. Eric S. Everden is running to be a member of the Board of Health. Christine Igo Freeman is running for re-election to be a Boyden Library trustee. Catherine Uden is also running to be a Boyden Library trustee. Francis J. Spillane is running to stay on as moderator. Ronald P. Bressie is running as member of the Planning Board. Robert T. Garber is running to be in the Water and Sewer Commission. And Gregory Spire is running to be member of the Housing Authority, and that position carries a term of 5 years. All right, I think that's enough time. And now we've got the two candidates to fill for Board of Selectmen. Present are one of our incumbents and a new face to the board, but not quite a new face to Foxboro, who's looking to fill the seat vacated by James DeVellis. We are pleased to welcome Mark Elfman and former Foxboro Police Chief Edward O'Leary. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll get into this. You both have a chance for an opening statement. You have the same format as the school committee, just as a reminder. So you can each offer an opening statement, take a few questions, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
All right, so we'll start with the incumbent this time. So Mark, please proceed with your
Well, I want to certainly thank the Jaycees for hosting this yearly's candidate night. It's a wonderful experience year after year to be able to see the candidates in an open forum, and we certainly thank you, and thank you for hosting tonight. And all the volunteers to Foxboro Cable Access. What a remarkable facility this is. You look at all the cameras around here, and then the control room in back, and they really do a wonderful job throughout town. I would like to congratulate Bob Cutler for his continued commitment to the town as town clerk, 11 years, 3 more. He's done a wonderful job. You know, his office is certainly the face of the town. People not sure where they need to go, what they have to do, start off at the town clerk's office. And him and his staff has done a wonderful job. I want to thank Mr. Roeder and Mr. Canfield for running for school committee and filling those 2 vacancies. It's funny how life comes full circle, especially with me and Chief O'Leary. Chief O'Leary got me involved in volunteering over 25 years ago. It seemed like any time he would go to a convention or a seminar, he'd come back with ideas, and I'd always be on the short list to join a committee that he was starting for one project or another. The National Red Ribbon Drug and Alcohol Awareness, the National Night Out Against Crime, which both are still hosted up at the Common year after year. So to be working with him over the next 3 years as selectman will be a wonderful experience for me. I really look forward to doing that. I want to thank the citizens of the town. The last 3 years have been a great 3 years. It's been a learning 3 years. It certainly takes a year and a half, 2 years just to come up to speed. A couple of budget processes under your belt to really have a good understanding of what that process is all about, and the interaction between the selectmen and all the committees and town offices that we work with. But we've accomplished a lot in the last 3 years. The town hall opening, Foxfield Plaza, the Borough School renovation is going to be starting soon, the changes in zoning up on Route 1, the MBTA pilot program, which I think is postponed a little bit, but still going through. Even the expansion of the Brigham and Women's Medical Facility up at Patriots Place has been wonderful changes to the town over the last 3 years, and I'm certainly looking forward to the next 3 years being more seasoned and doing some continued work for the town.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Like everyone else, I'm going to call you, you said it's okay to call you Ed, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Ed, please proceed with
Very
your,
appropriate
please proceed with your opening statement.
thing. Many people probably remember when I was the police chief in our community. I was very fortunate. I worked with wonderful people on the police department, worked with good peers in the fire service and throughout the community. And having retired 2.5 years ago, I felt it was a good opportunity to get back into public service, which has been my life since I graduated from college. And I thought that I could bring a new set of skills and knowledge that would make the Board of Selectmen even stronger and provide information, having worked in this community for over 39 years, as 31 as the police chief, having worked with different town administrators, town managers throughout my career, as well as probably 40 different selectmen in that time period. So I'm hoping that the community, through the Board of Selectmen, as part of a team, can provide guidance and leadership for the community and to support the departments that provide vital services to the people of Foxboro. Because that's, I think, our ultimate goal, is to make sure that the people that are residents here, visitors, have a safe visit. They come here, they can, have families, go to excellent schools, and have a nice lifestyle. And that's my intent by being a member of the Board of Selectmen.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so Jimmy, you are going to go ahead and ask your first question. You can choose whoever you want to address it to.
Okay.
It's for both of you, but
All right.
start with the incumbent.
We'll start with Mr. O'Leary first then. So this question comes from a resident who is curious about, given the recent boom in housing development with condos, apartments, mixed use, are there ways that the Board of Selectmen can collaborate with the planning board to protect open space and natural resources in the town as well?
Now, this is addressed to me on that.
You'll both be answering it, but we're starting with you.
Certainly, I think the cooperation between the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board is essential on different projects that do happen in town. You can be updated by the town planner. We're going through that process right now about the redevelopment of the fire station and the old funeral home, as to which developer has brought forward the most proficient use of the land at that location that will benefit the long-term growth of the community, especially with the emphasis now on redeveloping the downtown. In terms of working with other groups, and again, going back to the planning board, because it's more their area of expertise and responsibility, to make sure that we try and incorporate as much open land as possible, while understanding that the fiscal constraints that we're under, when you're buying a house in Foxboro, you're paying a lot of money, and it's sometimes not economically feasible to redo a house that's 60 years old and is too small for the families that are willing to buy here. And it's a game of economics as well, to make sure that we can provide services for all the residents that move into our community.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And you, sir?
Yeah, Mark, same
Yeah,
question.
I think the selectmen, the planning board, our town planner, Paige Duncan, does a great job working with each other already on where this town is going forward. There's a master plan, there's a downtown revitalization plan that's been in the works for years, and a lot of that is coming to fruition now. where the townspeople wanted us to go and where the town is going. And I think we work very well together on those projects. The Wall Street project coming forward, as Chief mentioned, the firehouse and funeral home is close to being coming to fruition, and other projects downtown we're going to see a lot of changes downtown, but a lot of that was already planned out years ago, even long before I was on the Board of Selectmen. And I think we're seeing a lot of that happen, and the growth that I think the zoning changes that the town meeting did last year on Route 1 will allow for a lot more growth on Route 1 too, which was also part of the plan.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Excellent.
Okay.
So my next question is, other towns, whether nearby like Mansfield or other towns in Norfolk County like Needham, have gone forth and taking action to more directly recognize women serving in office. They've changed the names of their boards of selectmen to select boards. I was just wondering if either of you believe that this is something that's necessary, or if it's something that you would consider if someone had proposed it.
I would assume I'll go
Mark, you can take it
this
first.
time.
Yep, yeah, Mark, please, sorry. I'm slacking here. I'm just like drifting off and listening to
I
answers.
think the town would be, amenable to listening to someone if that change was asked. If I remember correctly, I think Ginny Capola had no problem being called a selectman. That seems like more of a generic term, even though, it's selectman. Chairman is a generic term, although, you could certainly call someone chairperson or chairwoman. I think Foxboro would be more than amenable to any concerns a townsperson or an elected official would have in changing something like that, but it just hasn't come up yet.
Okay, thank you very much. And you, sir?
I actually remember the first time being interviewed for my position as a police officer in Foxboro by a board of selectmen that contained two of our first women select people ever elected to Foxboro back in 1977. And there was some discussion then about the potential for changing the name, but that never took place. And over time, we've had other women assuming the role of select person to benefit our community and provide leadership and not a unique view, but certainly a cooperative view of working with other members on the board, for the benefit of all our residents that live in Foxboro, as well as the visitors that come here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Do you have another question?
Yeah, I can do one more. So.
No pressure. We can-
Okay, so recently there has been a very public difference of opinion between the town manager and the budget advisory committee that's come up at some meetings. I was just wondering if you guys could share your thoughts about this, and if you thought the advisory committee is correct to insert itself in opposition to some aspects of the fiscal year 2020 budget.
Okay. I feel like I want to go to an incumbent here because you're kind of more ingrained. We'll start with you this time again.
Okay. It was certainly publicized quite a bit, and I think some good, strong discussion on hot topics is good for the town. The advisory committee has a very important role in this town. They're all volunteers. They're sort of like our conscience for the warrant articles. A separate group of people who can look at it from a different angle, just appointed officials by the moderator, and they have their opinions, and they've gone through the process over the last few months. They're an autonomous group. There's no input one way or the other. I mean, input from the town's directors, but we have, as selectmen, we have no input as to what they feel they need to do. They're an autonomous group. And I think the fact that they came back with some ideas themselves on where they think the budget should be changed is certainly their right. And on at town meeting, ultimately the townspeople will vote in which direction they want to go. We're advising the town as selectmen. The town manager is advising the town as the town manager, and the advisory committee is advising the town on their viewpoints. And as a matter of fact, when you see it on the voting sheets, there are 3 columns, and the 3 columns will have all 3 of our opinions. So people have to go out, go to town meeting, vote. It's the purest part of government. You go out, you have a say. Listen to the pros and cons on the floor of town meeting, and vote what you feel is best for you as a townsperson and a voting member of our community. So I think it was a good, it's good for the town to have some, not controversy, but discussion. Good for the town to have some good, strong discussion.
Okay.
Mr. O'Leary, you can
Yes, go ahead.
Do you have no follow-up on that?
I think I'll let you both go first, and then I'll go for a follow-up.
Okay. I prepared 31 budgets for the police department and for the dispatch service. And over time, there were always differences of opinion that were put forth by whether it was selectmen making changes, town administrator with Andy Gala, Kevin Pecos, or Bill Keegan making adjustments to the budget. But if I felt strongly about an issue that was removed by our advisory committee, I certainly had the opportunity to get up and explain my point of view to the public that's there to vote on the issue. Now, more times than not, I didn't succeed because the public that goes to town meeting is dependent upon fellow citizens looking what they perceive the town can continue to provide a service, maybe with a reduced position or a reduction in some type of spending. So I think we might be far amiss to try and tinker with a system that over the 2 centuries in our community seems to have worked effectively for everyone.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
So I guess the follow-up to that is, I know a lot of the common argument was, I know that the town manager had said that it is a balanced budget, but I know there were some concerns about some of the revenue long-term as well. So do you think there are some, personally, do you believe that there are some concerns that the budget could use some reductions?
I think, I don't know, who should go first?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm losing.
Oh.
I'm losing my job. I'm
Good
tired.
God.
Let's go with Ed first, even though you just finished the last one. Let's go ahead. We'll try to do the ping pong match here.
Okay. I think throughout the entire economy, we all have to be aware of what trends are going to be happening. We've had a great economy, both on the national as well as state, for the past decade, so that we've had different departments allowed to grow to better meet the needs of our residents here. But I think we're all aware that things do change. And I know it's very challenging for some of our older residents to be able to cope with the increasing taxes as well as other expenses to keep themselves in their homes. And I've heard that frequently when I've been at the senior center, to listen to what's going on in people's lives. And I think we have to be aware of that. There might come a time that we're going to have to look more stringently at future growth and even start to devise plans in case there have to be cutbacks, which I think I've gone through 6 specific years that we didn't fill vacancies. Thankfully, we've never had to lay people off, although at one point it was enough that we laid off the staff of civilian dispatchers of 4 people that we had established several years earlier back in 1990. And that was very difficult, but that's what you have to cope with.
Okay, thank you very much. And you, sir?
Yeah, I know, one of the things, putting a balanced budget together is certainly for this year and looking forward. One of the things we don't want to do is get into a recession where the funds aren't coming in and have to lay off. Those were some tough times when those had to happen years ago. And I think, we're very aware of not wanting that to happen again. And there are various funds that we do have where we're able to put money into, for lack of a better term, a rainy day fund. And some of that money's been used in other arenas too. We haven't have an override in this town for years, yet we have a new town hall, and we're going to be able to pay for that without an override. We're going to be able to pay for the Borough School renovation without an override. And that's bode well for what our budget's done over the last few years, 10 years, because of our foresight and looking at what we needed and how to fund things, and been able to do it without doing an override.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think are you good?
Yeah.
Anything else? Because we're a little over, full disclosure, we're a little over time.
I have no follow-up. That's perfect.
All right, great, thank you. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Ed and Mark. We really appreciate you being here tonight. I would say good luck at the polls, but you're kind of a sure bet.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. That'll bring our evening to a close. Just one quick note. I want to apologize to Greg Spear for mispronouncing his name. He is, again, running for the Housing Committee. I believe I said Spire, and I apologize. Greg Spear, running for the Housing Committee for a term of 5 years. All right. Now that brings our program to a close, and we'd like to thank the candidates again for taking their time out of their busy schedules to participate in tonight's broadcast. We want to thank our media panelists. Jimmy, thank you so much for being here. Great questions. Thank you very much. And a big thanks once again to all of the crew and staff at Foxboro Cable Access for assisting the Jaycees with this program tonight. Tonight's program will be rebroadcast on this channel up until Election Day, perhaps up to 2 times a day. Please check the FCA program schedule for show dates and times. And you can also view the program online on the website fcatv.org. fcatv.org. Great resource, and I highly recommend checking it out, not just for this, but for other things that Foxboro Cable Access does. And finally, we'd like to thank you, the audience at home, for tuning in and taking an active role in the upcoming election by viewing this program. We hope that the information in this broadcast will better assist you understanding who you'll be voting for this Monday, or not this one, May 6th, the upcoming Monday, May 6th. And kind of to echo what Bob Cutler said, unopposed does not mean don't show up. You should be exercising your right to vote at every opportunity, including local elections. It's a right too many people take for granted, and I hope you do not. But I guess if you're tuning into this program, you're probably not someone who takes that for granted. So the poll workers will look forward to seeing you at John J. Ahern Middle School on May 6th, sometime between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. I say thank you to those poll workers, too. They work hard, and they, as Bob said, they come out and do a great job every year. And do not forget that the annual town meeting to vote on the issues, the town warrant, is the following Monday, the 13th, at 7:30 p.m. at the high school. And I guess that'll do it. On behalf of the Foxboro Jaycees, thank you for watching, and good night.